What's a story from your life so outrageous you wouldn't believe it if someone else was telling it? When I was visiting Korea, my taxi driver spoke perfect English, was an escaped convict, and got into a high-speed chase with the cops while he was dropping me off. When the chase started, he ran a stoplight and almost got us hit by a truck, then sped up over 100 miles per hour swerving through traffic. He actually sorta juked the cops and dropped me off in a random alley about 2 miles away from where I needed to be. I peed myself a little and I was so shaken when he dropped me that could barely walk. By the way, he put me out of the car at like 5-10 miles per hour, it was super fast. I've had a fire alarm go off whilst in an MRI, then a CT scan machine, and then on a radiotherapy treatment table. All of them require you to be inside the machines strapped in, all took place in different hospitals, and it was over the course of a year. Was there actually a fire? No, thankfully. But full evacuations each time. Good, because if there actually was a fire, you'd be fucked. I had a class with 2 people in it who were both named unique, but each was spelled a different way, so I guess they were still technically correct. I go by a pretty uncommon nickname. I had a college class, and the first day I was the first to show up and picked my seat. The class fills all the way up except for the seat behind me. We are about to pair up for some exercise and some kid walks in and sits in the only open seat behind me. We pair up and he introduces himself as my name. Same nickname and last name. I thought I was tripping out, but we had a good laugh about it. He dropped the class after the next week, which was okay because he was pretty annoying. My son went to school with kid who had the same first and last name. They had one class together. The office called for that named student to come to the office. The teacher called the office and said which one? The black kid or the white kid? The boys both thought it was hilarious and always told people they were brothers. They even applied to the same job once and the interviewer was very confused. I saw my other son recently and we had the biggest hug. One the day my son was born, at the same hospital, delivered by the same doctor, there was another kid born with the exact same first name and last name. Scheduling appointments etc. meant having to also give his middle name and mother's name. And I'm pretty sure once there was a mix-up at the pharmacy because we were told his meds weren't covered by his insurance. But he was on Medicaid, and when they mentioned the name of the medication it didn't match what we were expecting. Thankfully at least they weren't super important meds. I don't remember what they were exactly, but it was something prescribed as a well just in case this might help deal. My dad once shook the tree in our garden and a whole ass trout fell out of it. To this day I wonder where it came from. I assume a bird dropped it. There aren't any big bodies of water nearby though. Maybe the neighbors chucked it out of the window. I met my wife at her wedding reception. Also, back in college I wrote a short story and threw a fictitious phone number in for a good time call line. Based it on some friends' room numbers. Fast forward 6 years and I'm filling out a job app and they have the same phone number. I've worked for them 23 years now. Now, I stayed friends with my ex and he was hitting on a girl at the bar. She drunkenly gave him the wrong number. The number she gave him was the number of my new boyfriend. I randomly met the dude that I was born with. Our mothers gave birth to us in the same hospital on the same day and shared a recovery room. 25 years later, on the other side of the country, he was dating my roommate. My brother was dating a girl and things were starting to get serious, so he brought her around to meet the parents. While making small talk, my mom recognized her as the baby of the woman with whom she shared the hospital room when my brother was born. I'm not young, so back then women were usually in the hospital for a few days after birth in general. They even kept in touch for a few years, but as things often do, they lost touch. They are married now with 3 girls. They were born one day apart. Weird how small a world it can be. I met someone I knew at school that I hadn't seen in years at Wet n Wild, Florida. We're both from the UK, so bumping into some else you know from the UK is pretty slim, but we also happen to be visiting the same water park, queuing for the same ride at the same time and day. It's pretty mind-boggling. I once comforted and prayed with a man who claimed to be a prophet of God named Spirit Walker, who was crying about the time he killed a lot of children in guerrilla warfare. It was quite terrifying. Turned out one of my classmates, who we all thought was a 15-year-old girl, was actually a 30-year-old woman. I once accidentally went through the USA-Canada border trying to go to Walmart. I couldn't do a U-turn once I was on the road for it, and I had blindly followed my GPS to go to the closest Walmart that I didn't realize was in Canada. I live close to the border. They searched my car and I had 4 phones due to my internet job, and also a baggie full of melatonin pills. I was in between moving to a new apartment and I needed to bring the melatonin, but I lost the cap to the container, so I poured the pills into a baggie. My internet job involved posting affiliate links to campsites to different Snapchat accounts at the time, hence the 4 phones. I spent 4 hours at the Canadian border office in an interrogation room trying to convince them I wasn't a crazy drug dealer. I did something similar in 2001. I was a freshman in college in Buffalo, NY, and was driving to a friend's parents' house for dinner one night. I didn't really know where I was going, but traffic was all moving in the same direction, so I just kind of followed it. It turned out all of traffic was heading over the Peace Bridge into Canada. Getting into Canada was a breeze. I explained that I made a wrong turn and it was a mistake. They showed me where to turn around to get back on the Peace Bridge in the other direction and waved me on. Getting back into the United States was an absolute nightmare. This was like 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11 and everyone was on edge. The whole thing was just insane. They took me inside and asked me like 1,000 times in a slightly different way why I just followed traffic over the bridge. I don't know, and I was lost, apparently with the wrong answers. I was probably there for a good 2 hours before they let me through. This is before cell phones became ubiquitous, so I had absolutely no way to call my friend. By the time I got to their house, they were calling the hospitals because nobody had seen or heard from me. We did all have a good laugh about it though. Haha. One time me and some friends went to Quebec to drink all weekend, and on the way back we were all hungover and tired. Had to wait 2 hours to get across border into USA, and my bro was in the back seat sleeping when we roll up to the border patrol agent. He asks what we were doing, so I said we went clubbing, yada yada. He asked why my bro looked like he was tripping, but he is straight edge as can be, so we all laughed, and then the border agent yelled at us for laughing and our whole car got searched, interrogated and all that. Took us all day to go from Quebec to Burlington, VT. I went to visit a friend's house with a group of friends. Friend who we were visiting has an open door policy with friend's family. No need to knock, just come in and announce yourself. So we all did exactly that. We all walked in his house and started saying hello, "Hello, Mrs. Doubtfire." We didn't hear anything at first, so we tried again. After the 4th or 5th hello, we finally hear a hello back from upstairs. We figured he and his wife were getting changed, so we sat down on the couch to wait. About a minute later, my friend and his wife walked in the front door. All of us that were screaming hello sat there and looked at each other. We all heard the hello coming from upstairs. To this day we have no clue who said hello, but it was fucking creepy.